Hey, what's going on, guys? Appreciate you stopping by. Video today, I want to talk some about container gardening, and I'm talking vegetables, and raised beds and small space gardening. I actually wrote a guide on it. Maybe I'll put a link below if you want to check it out. But I want to show you a couple of things in my garden that I have now, and then I'm going to talk some. And while I'm talking, I'll have some pictures of some gardens that I've had in the past where I'll explain it at that time. So let me turn this camera around and I'll just talk a little bit about raised beds. And by the way, this is my philosophy. I'm not telling you I'm 100% right and that everything I say is right on the money with, what other gardening, people think and what garden experts would say. They might tell me I don't know what I'm talking about. And that's okay. So let me I'll spin this around. All right, so you can see here I've got it's a raised bed, and it's basically a large container, but it's a raised bed. And that's what we do here on our small homestead here in central Maine. And if you're new to the channel, the reason why we chose raised beds is because we had a massive weed problem, and it's a very, very invasive weed, very difficult to control. So therefore, we just decided raised beds. We can control the soil better and everything. So these are all pepper plants. But one of the things that with raised beds as well as containers such as buckets and grow bags is they are elevated, and the water, when they get watered, will drain out faster than if you have an in-ground garden. So I'll probably repeat this a couple times during the video, but you have to water more frequently. Without a doubt, you got to water more frequently. So if you're hand watering or you have a sprinkler, you got to do that. And when it gets really hot out, like it has been recently, sometimes you got to do it twice a day. This is these yellow squash. These are some of the biggest leaves I've ever had. I've been gardening for over 20 years. These leaves, I mean, look at the size of that leaf. It is huge. You see my little guys in there? They're growing. And there's actually two double, I don't know what you call them, double squash in here where they grew together. There's one there, and I got another one on the other side. Pretty cool. And here's more yellow squash, a little bit different variety. But you can see what's possible. This is a 4-foot by 2-foot raised bed, small space. You use some good soil, and if you're local to Maine, this is super soil is what I typically use from Levant Landscaping. But I'll also amend it every year because I don't remove the soil and put it back in. I'll amend it every year with some black cow composted cow manure or my own compost, which I've got the compost bin over there. And it works really well. Of course, tomatoes do fantastic in pretty much anywhere. These are more cucumbers. I believe this is a 6-footer, 6x3. So, yeah, things are doing really well right now. I'm going to show you one more. Then I'm going to. There's more. There's peppers. Those are younger plants. Some jalapenos. And this is a Three Sisters garden we're trying this year. Again, I've mentioned this before. I've had several people tell me that this is not going to work, and it might not. We're trying, we're experimenting. And by the way, we're always making mistakes and screwing up, and we learn from that. These are young squash, and they are got planted by seed, and they're just coming up But the corn right now looks fantastic. We had some Japanese beetles on them 2 days ago. And I've got some traps about 30 feet away. You can see the beans right here are crawling up the stalks, which is really cool. I mean, that's what's supposed to happen. So anyways, that's just to give you an idea of a couple of different size raised beds, and you could grow all kinds of stuff. Pretty much anything you can put in an in-ground, I feel like you can put in a raised bed. So we do strawberries, radishes, pretty much everything. So if you have a small space, then you can absolutely garden and grow some of your own food. So let me set my camera up. I'm going to sit down, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of my experience that I've had in different locations with small space gardening. So I'm sitting towards the back of the garden. Hopefully a Sasquatch doesn't come up behind me, grab me, and carry me off, but it'll make for good footage if it does happen. So I mentioned, I've been gardening for over 20 years. I've made tons of mistakes, and I've learned a lot. Most of my gardening experience was in the Southeast. That's in South Carolina, a little bit in Georgia, and a little bit in Kentucky. And I had in-ground gardens at a house that I had down there for many years. But even when I had an in-ground garden, which did very well, I had good soil, I also did some raised beds. I built some 4-foot by 8-foot beds, and I also did buckets. And a variety of other containers. And just tell you a couple of things, a few experiences that I had. So I already mentioned about the water. I'm gonna keep bringing that up because it is critically important. Obviously, your vegetables, your garden needs sufficient water. Not too much, but sufficient. And when you have a bucket, as long as the soil can drain out the bottom, you got to make sure you put holes in the bottom of your containers. And raised beds, you absolutely need to water sufficiently. And in the hot weather, your plants will normally let you know if they don't have enough water. And as I mentioned earlier, I'm going to put some photos of some of the different small space gardening that we did over the years. I lived in a camper full time. I had a couple different campers at different times, but for probably a little over 3 years, we lived full time in a camper. And there was a couple locations in South Carolina, and then in Kentucky, we lived in a camper. Absolutely beautiful area, right off the Ohio River. And when I looked across the Ohio River, Indiana was on the other side. A really, really interesting place. And, I was used to having a, decent sized garden in ground with some raised beds and containers. And here I find myself, a variety of reasons, but I find myself in a camper and I'm wanting to garden. Spring comes around, I'm getting the itch. I want to garden. So I'd get some buckets, drill some holes in them. By the way, I'm getting the black flies flying around me. They found me. So I'd get some buckets, drill some holes in them, and I'd go buy some dirt, potting soil, and some black cow, composted cow manure. I really, really like that stuff. I've been using it for years. And fill the buckets, a little peat moss as well. Got to keep that soil loose. And I would buy transplants, I'd buy seeds, and I would plant yellow squash, I really like yellow squash. Zucchinis is fantastic. Very simple to grow in my experience. Lettuce, not head lettuce. I would do leaf lettuce, especially down south. Head lettuce, I never had any luck with. They would bolt when it looked like they were getting ready to turn to a head. They would bolt, go to flower. So this black fly is flying all around me, drive me crazy. Entertainment for you guys. Get the popcorn. So I used the buckets. I did potatoes. I'm doing potatoes now in buckets. And, of course, tomatoes. Tomatoes in all kinds, in different sizes, containers. What else? I mean, everything. Peppers in buckets. I showed some of that here, but we did that elsewhere. And herbs. Lots of herbs in different size containers, different shape containers. We had, I don't think we have it anymore. I'm looking. We had a very interesting, it was a pot that had a little bowl to it, and then it had 2 feet, literally. It was 2 feet, very strange. And, we put flowers and, you could put herbs and stuff like that in there. So, cucumbers. That's my favorite, and yet it's the last one that I bring up, really. Cucumbers I've grown in buckets, and I usually used a tomato cage that I would put once it came up, or if I put transplants in there, I'd put a tomato cage, and then I would train the vines as it was going up. So I've had great luck. I also made a raised bed out of some wood that I bought. I was at a camper place long term, and they didn't mind it at all. They actually thought we had a beautiful site because we really kept care of it, and they saw this food growing and stuff, and got a lot of comments. But yeah, so I also made a raised bed out of cinder blocks. It was someplace that I was working. We had spare cinder blocks, and I literally just brought them home, made a rectangle, little geometry lesson here, and filled it with some dirt, and I was growing stuff in there. And my whole point with this video that I hopefully I'm doing a decent job trying to get it across is there's a lot of people out there that even are in an apartment, and if you have a patio of any size, you can go out there and you can have some pots with soil in it and grow tomatoes. You can get a ton of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, out of a 5-gallon bucket. You can have a 5-gallon bucket and grow, put 3 cucumber seeds in there and grow them. And get cucumbers, fresh cucumbers. You can have lettuce inside sitting on your windowsill. And, black-seeded Simpson is my favorite. So, black-seeded Simpson or romaine, something like that, you can grow that right on your windowsill. That's really what I'm trying to get across with this video is do what you can. And learn. So, anyways, I think I've probably gone on long enough. But comment below, what's your experience been? I learned early on to do what I could when it came to gardening. And I could just remember the very first garden that I had, small space, with the cinder blocks. I was in an apartment. And actually bringing in a couple of cucumbers was so satisfying. A couple of cucumbers, that's it. But it was so satisfying. Now I'm doing, something quite different. But, you do what you can. You just do what you can. So anyways, that's it. I appreciate you guys stopping by. Hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't. If you do subscribe, click that notification bell so you'll be aware when I upload new videos. And yeah, that's it. You guys stay safe, take care. We'll see you next time.
So I ran from the cities and the noise and lies, found a piece of ground under open skies. Hands in the dirt, sweat on my shirt, learning what living's really worth. While crooked men shake hands in rooms, selling souls to corporate suits. Society's sick, but I found the cure. A back road life, honest and pure. They can keep their throne and their golden news. This life out here's my modern exodus. I traded screens for a sunrise, callous palms, blisters, pride. Planted seeds where hope